Left alone in a dark forest by her cruel stepmother, Luana's fate seemed sealed until a mysterious wolf appeared, not as a threat, but as her protector. Meanwhile, her grandfather, Henry, braved the night in a desperate search to save her. This is a story of survival, unexpected bonds, and the strength we find in life's darkest moments. Stay until the end to uncover how betrayal turned into an unforgettable lesson in resilience. If this story moved you or made you reflect on your own journey, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate notifications. Together, we'll continue exploring stories that inspire growth and transformation. After all, life is full of lessons waiting to be uncovered. Let's uncover them together. It was one of those moments that leaves you questioning humanity. The forest stood silent, its towering trees bearing witness to an act so cold it could chill even the warmest heart. Luana, a young woman confined to a wheelchair, begged her stepmother not to leave her there. But Renata, with a face as hard as stone, turned her back and vanished into the shadows of the Michigan woods. It's strange, isn't it? How some people can discard others as if they were mere inconveniences. Life has a way of testing us in the most unexpected ways, and for Luana, this was just the beginning of a trial that would shape her spirit. The forest wasn't just quiet, it was alive with an eerie kind of stillness. Every rustle of leaves seemed louder, every distant howl more menacing. Luana sat there, her breath clouding in the growing cold, feeling utterly powerless. But here's the thing about life. It often strips us down to our most vulnerable state before revealing our hidden strength. As she sat alone in that clearing, surrounded by nothing but darkness and fear, she began to understand what it meant to face herself. Isn't it ironic how solitude can sometimes be the loudest teacher? And yet, even in her despair, Luana clung to hope, fragile but unyielding. She thought about how many times life had thrown curveballs at her before, and how she had always found a way to catch them, even from her wheelchair. The forest may have been vast and unkind that night, but it also held secrets that would soon change everything. Sometimes, when we're left with nothing but ourselves and the unknown, we discover that the universe has a way of balancing cruelty with unexpected kindness. The night deepened, and with it came a silence so profound it felt as if the forest itself was holding its breath. Luana sat frozen, her mind racing with every possible fear. Then, out of the shadows, two glowing yellow eyes emerged, piercing, unblinking and impossibly close. A massive black wolf stepped into the clearing, its coat shimmering under the faint moonlight. Her heart pounded like a drum, and for a moment, she thought this was the end. Isn't it funny how fear often paints the worst-case scenario before we even know the truth? But life, unpredictable as ever, had other plans. Isn't that a lesson in itself? How often do we judge others or even situations based on assumptions, only to find out later that our fears were misplaced? The wolf's presence was unsettling yet oddly comforting, a paradox that mirrored life's own contradictions. As the minutes stretched into what felt like hours, Luana realized she wasn't alone in this ordeal, not entirely. The wolf didn't leave her side. It circled the clearing as if standing guard. In its silent companionship, she found an unexpected ally. Sometimes help comes from the most unlikely sources, doesn't it? We expect saviors to look a certain way or arrive at the perfect moment, but life has its own timing and messengers. For Luana, this wild creature was more than a predator. It was a symbol of resilience and protection in a world that had just abandoned her. Back at home, Henry paced the floor with a growing sense of dread. The old man was no stranger to life's hardships, but the thought of his granddaughter missing in the vast Michigan woods sent a chill through his bones. When he stumbled upon her abandoned suitcase near the edge of the forest, his worst fears were confirmed. Isn't it strange how one small object can carry so much weight? That suitcase wasn't just a piece of luggage, it was a symbol of betrayal, a silent witness to Renata's cruelty. Without hesitation, Henry grabbed a flashlight and plunged into the darkness, driven by love and desperation. The forest was an unforgiving maze, its towering trees casting long shadows that seemed to stretch endlessly. Henry's flashlight beam danced across the ground as he searched for any sign of Luana. A broken branch here, a faint wool track there, each clue felt like a breadcrumb, leading him closer to her. But then he noticed something else. Paw prints. Large ones. The realization hit him like a punch to the gut. A wolf was nearby, and the thought of Luana facing such a creature alone was almost too much to bear. Yet, isn't it true that fear often pushes us to act braver than we believe we can be? As he ventured deeper into the woods, Henry couldn't help but think about all the times he had failed Luana in the past, not intentionally, but in ways only hindsight reveals. This search wasn't just about finding her. It was about redemption, about proving that love could overcome even the darkest of nights. Every step forward felt like a silent promise. I won't let you down again. And though he didn't know it yet, his journey through those woods would lead him not only to Luana, but also to an encounter that would change everything. In the clearing, as the hours crept by, Luana began to notice something remarkable about the wolf. It wasn't just lingering, it was protecting her. The way it moved, circling the perimeter of the clearing, its ears twitching at every sound, made it clear that this creature wasn't there to harm her. At first, she thought it was just her imagination playing tricks on her, but then reality settled in. This wild animal had chosen to stay by her side. Isn't it fascinating how connections can form in the most unlikely of circumstances? Sometimes it's not words but actions that speak louder than anything else. As the night deepened, Luana found herself talking softly to the wolf, not because she expected it to understand, but because it made her feel less alone. She told it about her fears, her dreams, and even the pain of being abandoned by someone who was supposed to care for her. And though the wolf didn't respond, its steady presence felt like an answer in itself. Isn't that what we all crave sometimes? Not solutions or advice, but simply someone or something to sit with us in our darkest moments. The wolf's quiet companionship reminded her that even in isolation, there's a strange kind of solidarity to be found. Eventually, exhaustion overtook Luana, and she drifted into a restless sleep. The wolf remained vigilant, its sharp eyes scanning the shadows for any sign of danger. It was as if this creature understood that she was vulnerable and had taken it upon itself to be her guardian. Life is funny, like that it often sends us protectors in forms we'd never expect. As Luana slept under the watchful gaze of the wolf, a fragile sense of safety began to bloom within her. Little did she know that help was already on its way, and this bond with the wolf would soon become a story she'd carry with her forever. The first rays of dawn began to filter through the dense canopy of trees as Henry's flashlight flickered in the distance. Luana stirred awake, her heart leaping at the faint sound of footsteps crunching on the forest floor. The wolf, ever alert, stood at attention, its piercing eyes fixed on the approaching figure. When Henry finally emerged into the clearing, his face a mix of relief and disbelief, Luana felt a wave of emotion crash over her. Isn't it incredible how the sight of someone who loves you can instantly make you feel safe, no matter how dire the situation? But Henry's relief was quickly tempered by the sight of the wolf standing protectively beside her. At first, Henry froze, unsure whether this wild creature was friend or foe. He raised his arms cautiously, shielding Luana as best he could. But then something remarkable happened. The wolf didn't growl or attack, it merely stepped back, as if understanding that its role was complete. Life has a way of surprising us like that, doesn't it? Sometimes what we fear most turns out to be exactly what we need. Henry, though wary, couldn't deny that this animal had kept Luana safe through the night. It was a silent guardian, one that seemed to embody the very essence of loyalty and instinctive kindness. With Luana safely in his arms, Henry began the journey back home. The wolf followed them to the edge of the forest, its presence steady and unwavering until they reached safety. It never crossed that invisible boundary between wilderness and civilization, almost as if it knew its place was among the trees. Isn't it poetic how some connections are meant to be fleeting, yet unforgettable? As they left the forest behind, Henry couldn't help but glance back at the wolf one last time. It stood there silently, watching them disappear into the light of day, a protector who asked for nothing in return. Back home, the warmth of safety wrapped around Luana like a long-lost friend, but the scars of the night lingered. Henry wasted no time reporting Renata's cruel abandonment to the authorities, and soon, the small community buzzed with outrage. People whispered about the stepmother's heartless act, their anger palpable. It's strange how adversity often brings out both the worst and best in people. While Renata's betrayal was a stark reminder of human cruelty, the community's collective support for Luana showed that compassion still thrived in unexpected places. Isn't it true that even in darkness, there's always a flicker of light waiting to shine through? For Luana, the experience left her changed, not broken, but stronger. She couldn't stop thinking about the wolf, that silent guardian who had stayed by her side when no one else did. To her, it wasn't just an animal. It was a symbol of resilience and protection. Life has a way of teaching us lessons through the most unconventional teachers, doesn't it? That wolf reminded her that strength doesn't always roar. It can also be quiet, steady, and unwavering. And isn't that a lesson we all need? That even when we feel abandoned, there are forces seen or unseen that guide us through. As Renata faced legal consequences for her actions, Luana began to rebuild her life with Henry by her side. The forest no longer felt like a place of fear, but one of transformation, a space where she had discovered an inner strength she never knew she had. And though she never saw the wolf again, its memory stayed with her like an old friend. Sometimes life gives us protectors who leave as quickly as they come, but their impact lingers forever. And so, Luana moved forward, not defined by what had happened to her, but empowered by how she had survived it. Life has a peculiar way of testing us, doesn't it? It throws us into situations that seem unbearable, only to reveal the strength we never knew we had. Luana's journey through the forest wasn't just a tale of survival, it was a story about resilience, unexpected connections, and the quiet guardians that life sends our way. Life has a peculiar way of testing us, doesn't it? It throws us into situations that seem unbearable, only to reveal the strength we never knew we had. Luana's journey through the forest wasn't just a tale of survival, it was a story about resilience, unexpected connections, and the quiet guardians that life sends our way. How often do we find ourselves feeling abandoned or betrayed, only to discover that those moments of despair are the very ones that shape us? Luana's bond with the wolf reminds us that help can come from the most unlikely places, and sometimes what we fear is what saves us. Think about your own life for a moment. Have you ever faced a situation where you felt utterly alone, only to find support in an unexpected form? Maybe it was a stranger's kindness, a friend's timely call, or even your own inner voice urging you to keep going. These moments teach us that no matter how dark things seem, there's always a way forward. What would happen if we embraced life's challenges as opportunities to grow rather than obstacles to fear? Luana's story is proof that even in the face of cruelty and abandonment, we can find strength, connection, and redemption. So I ask you, what will you do the next time life tests you? Will you crumble under the weight of fear and doubt, or will you rise with the courage to face the unknown? Remember, Every challenge is a chance to discover something new about yourself.